What if the answer is waiting in the stillness, right where you are? Let's slow this down. This video is about why you don't have to chase every question, why the clarity you seek often hides in quiet, and how being still might be the most revolutionary thing you can do in a world that doesn't stop moving. So let's talk about stillness. Not the passive kind, not giving up, but the kind of stillness that listens. We're not taught to do that. We're taught to hustle, to fix, to respond, to react, to know. And what if we don't know? We're told to push harder, think longer, work more. But here's the thing. Sometimes, the harder you push, the louder the noise becomes. And the louder the noise, the harder it is to hear your own inner voice. That voice that gets buried beneath deadlines, comments, alarms, headlines, messages, mental checklists. Underneath it all, stillness. Let's break down what stillness actually is. Stillness isn't sitting on a meditation cushion for hours, free from all thoughts. Stillness is giving yourself permission not to answer immediately. Sitting with a question longer than your ego wants to. Creating space between stimulus and response. Allowing discomfort to be a messenger instead of a threat. We live in a reaction culture. Something happens, we respond immediately. Text, tweet, post, comment. But response is not wisdom. It's a reflex. Wisdom comes from presence, and presence needs space. Stillness is where space lives. But here's the challenge. Most people equate stillness with doing nothing. And doing nothing feels like falling behind. It feels like being unproductive, like slacking. But is it? Or is it reclaiming your power from a system that profits off your constant movement? Let me tell you about Eli. Eli was a startup founder, always on, woke up to Slack things, fell asleep with news alerts, measured his worth in productivity apps and step counters. But he couldn't sleep, not just restlessly. He literally developed insomnia. His therapist didn't prescribe a pill. She described stillness. 10 minutes, no tech, no talking, just stillness. At first he hated it. He twitched, fidgeted, thought of his inbox. And then something strange happened. He started to feel things he hadn't let land in years. Old emotions, grief, gratitude, a sense of presence he couldn't name. And slowly, his nervous system recalibrated. That's what stillness does. It's not activity. It's a different kind of activity. One that rewires, restores, reconnects. Let's look at the science. Studies from Harvard's Mindfulness Research Center show us that just 8 minutes of mindfulness-based stillness per day can decrease the brain's default mode network, the same region overactive in anxiety and rumination. Stillness physically shifts your brain's chemistry. It increases gray matter in the hippocampus, linked to memory and emotional regulation, and reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Translation: stillness doesn't just feel better, it makes your brain work better. You become less reactive, more present, more focused, more emotionally intelligent. And that's just the beginning. Let's explore the myth of epiphany. We think answers come in the big aha moment, breakthroughs under pressure. But most people don't break through, they just break. Because insight doesn't actually come from force, it comes from spaciousness. Stillness is how that spaciousness arrives. It's the soil for intuitive clarity. You ever noticed how your best ideas come in the shower, or on a walk, driving alone? That's stillness. That's your mind trying not so hard. Because in the pause, something deeper emerges. Here's a simple tool you can use. The stillness cue. Next time you don't know what to do, don't rush to fix it. Ask yourself, what would stillness say right now? What's the answer behind the anxiety? If I already knew the answer, what would it be? And then, wait, not for hours, just long enough to let the noise settle. Answers don't always yell, most whisper. Stillness is how you learn to hear them. Let's dig deeper into why stillness feels so uncomfortable. Part of it comes from fear. Fear that if you stop, you fall behind. Fear that if you're not always doing, you're not enough. Fear that if you stay with the question too long, the answer will never come. But stillness is not inactivity. It's not giving up. It's not surrendering your ambition. It's choosing presence over panic, intuition over impulse, response over reaction. It's a radical shift. It's one of the few shifts that changes everything. Let me ask you something personal. What question has been living rent-free in your mind? Should I leave this relationship? Should I change careers? Why am I so tired all the time? What am I actually doing with my life? These aren't quick answer questions. They're soul questions. And soul questions don't respond to pressure. They respond to attention. Stillness is attention without agenda, and that's rare. Let's talk about Evan. Evan was 38. On paper, his life looked fine. Decent job, apartment, good health. But he felt off. Not broken, just blank. Every weekend, he filled the silence. Brunch, errands, shows, scrolling. But the gnawing didn't go away. One night, he walked without his phone. No music, no destination, just walked. For the first 10 minutes, it felt pointless, boring. By minute 15, his shoulders dropped. By minute 30, he cried. Not because of a single memory, not because he had been holding tension for so long. He forgot what letting go felt like. That night, he wrote down one thing. Be still, your answers are waiting. That became his daily practice, and eventually, the answers came. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Stillness doesn't erase your questions, but it helps you hear them clearly enough to trust your answers. Let's explore what gets in the way. Number 1, mental overcrowding. You're not just thinking, you're multitasking thought, planning, worrying, anticipating, regretting, all layered at once. Stillness helps you single task again. Number 2, identity confusion. When your identity is built on achievement, stillness feels threatening because it asks, who are you without the doing? That's a hard question, but an essential one. Number 3, avoidance of feeling. Stillness brings emotions to the surface, the ones you've numbed, postponed, or rationalized away. And yet, facing them is freedom. Remember, feelings don't kill you. Avoiding them just kills your clarity. And here's the truth we don't talk about enough. The thing you've been trying to think your way toward, it's already within you. But you can't access it through noise. You access it through alignment. And alignment requires space. Stillness is that space. You don't have to become a monk to practice it. Try this. 60 seconds before responding to any emotionally charged message. 5 minutes before starting your day, just breathing. 1 silent meal per week. And a no distraction walk once per weekend. These are not spiritual checklists. They are nervous system reset buttons. They train your body to believe you are safe, even when you're not achieving. In that belief, it changes your relationship with everything. Work, relationships, goals, yourself. You stop chasing. You start choosing. Stillness gives you the clarity to know the difference. Stillness also unlocks synchronicity. Call it flow, call it divine timing, call it quantum alignment. Whatever language you choose, something powerful happens when you stop forcing. You start noticing the conversation you needed, the quote that lands, the idea that clicks. They often appear after you pause, not before. Because your answers are rarely loud, they're layered. Stillness lets you hear beneath the noise. Let's get real for a second. There's a reason why people binge watch shows they don't even like, why they scroll endlessly, why silence feels like something to survive instead of something to savor. Because stillness feels like surrender, and we've been taught that surrender is weakness. Here's what surrender actually is. It's choosing to stop fighting what's true. It's saying, I don't have to control everything to be okay. And that's terrifying. until it's liberating. Stillness is the act of no longer running from what you already know. That's not weak, that's power. Let me share what happened with Tessa. Tessa was an artist, or rather, she used to be. She hadn't picked up a brush in 4 years. Every time she thought about creating, her brain whispered, "You'll mess it up. You've lost your edge. It's too late." So she stayed busy, coaching clients, organizing, being helpful, until one weekend, she decided to do absolutely nothing. No phone, no work, no tours, just herself. The first day, restless. The second day, insight. She realized she wasn't avoiding the art. She was avoiding the feeling of not being good enough. Stillness helped her see that fear clearly, and from there, she could meet it, not with force, but with compassion. She picked up the brush, she started again. Stillness was the bridge, because you can't heal what you can't hear, and stillness is how you listen. Here's a reframe that might help. Stillness is not the opposite of action, it's the fuel. When your actions come from alignment, not anxiety, everything changes. You stop mistaking urgency for importance. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop doing things just to prove you're doing something. Stillness recalibrates your compass, not based on expectations, but on truth. Let's explore practical resistance. Sometimes you want to be still, but your mind won't shut up. That's okay. Stillness isn't about having a blank mind. It's about not chasing every thought that shows up. Here's a quick technique, the stillness sweep. 1. Set a 5-minute timer. 2. Sit comfortably. 3. As thoughts arise, imagine gently sweeping them aside with a feather. 4. No judgment, just notice and sleep. 5. When the timer ends, breathe deeply and thank yourself for trying. That's it. This isn't about spiritual perfection. It's about presence practice. Every 1 minute counts, because every time you choose stillness, you're casting a vote for your future self. You're saying, I'm willing to feel. I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to trust that stillness is not stagnation. It's preparation. You might not see that fruit today, but you're planting seeds of presence, and presence changes everything. Let me give you one more example, something you can feel in your bones. Imagine you're in the ocean, the waves are wild, you're trying to stay afloat, to swim harder, to keep your head above water. But the harder you fight, the more tired you get. Now imagine you stop, you let your body afloat. Suddenly you realize the ocean is holding you. That's stillness, not sinking, it's floating. It's being held by something deeper, and that's where your answers live. Not in the splash, but in the stillness beneath it. Let's shift now to how stillness affects creativity, decisions, and even relationships. In creativity, stillness is the blank canvas. You can't paint over chaos. You need space for the colors to land. From some of the most inspired creators in history, from Da Vinci to Maya Angelou, built intentional stillness into their day, not because they were lazy, but because they understood brilliance needs breathing room. Ideas need silence to echo before they become sound. In decision-making, stillness is clarity. You ever made a decision too fast and regretted it? That's what happens when we react instead of reflect. Stillness gives you time to check in with what you really want and that which just feels the easiest or more comfortable. And it creates room for discernment. Even in relationships, stillness is a gift. When you stop trying to fill the air with the right words, you create space for honesty to land. Some of the most healing moments with someone you love happen in the shared silence, not in the clever response. Because presence doesn't always need a punchline, it needs patience. So how do we start? Simple. Stillness isn't a skill you master, it's a relationship you nurture. Start small. 2. Step outside at night and listen. That's stillness. Doesn't need incense or hashtags. It needs intention. And here's the part no one tells you. Stillness doesn't always give you answers right away. Sometimes it gives you better questions. Sometimes it shows you where you're tight. Sometimes it just reminds you to breathe. But over time, and this part is magic, it becomes a place you trust. a place inside you that's always there, no matter what the world is doing, no matter how fast things feel. A place that says, you don't need to know everything right now. You're allowed to rest. You're safe to listen. And maybe, just maybe, you start to believe it. That's the shift. That's the revolution. It's the foundation where everything meaningful begins. And if you're waiting for your answer, it's already waiting for you. Be still. Watch the next video. Or better yet, let this one sit with you a little longer. Stillness doesn't demand attention. It returns to it. And that's what truly matters. And sometimes, that's all you need.